You walk into a forest, just you, a pair of hiking boots, and a granola bar. And within seconds, absolute chaos. Birds launch themselves out of trees like the branches just caught fire. A deer locks eyes with you, freezes completely, then vanishes into the trees so fast it looks like it teleported. A squirrel sprints 3 steps, stops dead, sprints 3 steps, stops dead, clearly running some kind of broken internal program that cannot decide between fleeing and fainting. And you are just standing there, eating a snack, not threatening anyone, not doing anything remotely dangerous, just existing. So what exactly is happening? Why are creatures with claws, venom, horns, camouflage, and in some cases the ability to literally detach their own body parts? Why are they absolutely terrified of a soft, slow, mostly hairless primate who gets genuinely winded climbing 2 flights of stairs? The answer goes so much deeper than you think. And once you actually understand it, you will never look at a spooked animal the same way again. Let's go all the way back, because here is the thing that should make you slightly uncomfortable. The fear animals have of humans did not start last century. It did not start when we invented guns or built cities or even discovered fire. It started millions of years ago. And it is baked so deep into animal biology that it functions less like a learned behavior and more like an ancient piece of code running in the background of every wild creature on Earth. Scientists call it the landscape of fear. The idea is that prey animals do not just react to predators when they are standing right in front of them. They organize their entire existence around the possibility of a predator being nearby. Where they sleep, where they drink water, when they move, what they eat, and where they eat it. All of it is constantly calibrated around avoiding death. And for an enormous stretch of evolutionary history, early humans were one of the primary variables in that calculation. Our ancestors were persistence hunters. We could not outrun most prey animals in a short sprint. We did not have the explosive speed of a cheetah or the ambush power of a leopard. What we had was something that, from an animal's perspective, was genuinely more terrifying. We just kept going for hours in the midday heat, through exhaustion, across miles of open terrain, until the animal's body overheated and gave out completely beneath it. Humans are the only species on Earth capable of sustained long distance running in heat because we sweat efficiently and other mammals largely cannot. We did not outrun our prey. We outlasted them. If you were a gazelle on the African savanna 200,000 years ago and you spotted a weird upright creature jogging toward you at a medium pace and not stopping, that was one of the most genuinely horrifying things your nervous system could register. So animals learned, not individually, but across generations. The ones that did not run from human-shaped silhouettes got eaten. The ones that bolted at the first sign of a human survived, reproduced, and passed that wariness directly into their offspring's biology. Repeat that process across thousands of generations, and what you get is animals that arrive into this world preloaded with human fear already installed. It is not a choice. It is not a decision. It is a survival algorithm written into their DNA by millions of years of very consistent consequences. Now, here is where things get genuinely fascinating, and honestly, a little bit flattering. In 2016, researchers at the University of Western Ontario published a study that made a pretty extraordinary claim. They argued that humans are the super predator. Not just a predator, the super predator. More feared by other animals than any other predator on Earth, including the ones that actually eat them. To test this, they played audio recordings to wild animals in their natural habitats. Not recordings of lions roaring or wolves howling, just recordings of humans having casual conversations. The kind of exchange you would hear at a coffee shop or a bus stop. The results were remarkable. Mountain lions fled at more than twice the rate they fled from other large predators. Bobcats, deer, skunks, and possums all responded faster and more intensely to human voices than to any other threat they encountered. Some of these animals, species that have no natural predators of their own, still showed full panic responses to the sound of human conversation. A mountain lion, an apex predator that kills deer for breakfast and has essentially nothing to fear in nature. Running away from the sound of someone discussing their weekend plans. Why? Because even apex predators carry a historical memory of humans being dangerous. We hunted them. We pushed them from their territories. We killed them when they came too close to our settlements. Over enough generations, even the animals at the very top of the food chain learned the same lesson everything else learned. Humans equal threat. But it goes even deeper than that, because we are not just feared as predators. We are feared as unpredictable predators. And in the animal kingdom, unpredictability is the most terrifying quality anything can have. Most predators follow patterns. A wolf hunts at dawn and dusk. A crocodile ambushes near water. A hawk circles open fields looking for small rodents. Prey animals have spent millions of years evolving the ability to read these patterns, and knowing the pattern is what keeps them alive. A deer that knows where wolves hunt can avoid that area. A fish that knows when the heron feeds can stay deeper during those hours. Pattern recognition is survival, but humans have no pattern. We hunt in the morning and at midnight. We hunt alone and in groups of hundreds. We use fire, spears, traps, bows, rifles, poison, nets, and helicopters. We hunt on land, underwater, from the air. We hunt animals we eat and animals we will never eat. We hunt things that are actively dangerous to us and things that are completely harmless. From an animal's perspective, there is no consistent logic to us whatsoever. We are a variable they cannot solve. And when you cannot solve a variable, the only rational response is maximum avoidance at all times, regardless of circumstances. There is a concept in behavioral ecology called predator recognition, which describes how prey animals categorize and respond to threats. Most predators get filed into recognizable categories: big cat, bird of prey, canine. Animals have specific calibrated responses for each, but humans do not fit any existing category cleanly. We smell completely wrong. We move in a way that does not match any known predator template. We make sounds unlike anything else in nature. And then sometimes we sit very still in a park and throw bread at pigeons for 20 minutes. We break the entire classification system. And a brain that cannot classify a threat responds to it with the highest possible alarm level by default. But wait, what about the animals that are clearly not scared of us at all? You have definitely seen city pigeons that treat human feet as mild inconveniences at best. Raccoons that make direct and sustained eye contact while methodically going through your garbage. Seagulls that will take food directly from your hand and hold your gaze the entire time in a way that feels deeply personal and slightly threatening. So what is happening with those animals? This is called habituation, and it is one of the most important and fascinating concepts in all of animal behavior. When animals are repeatedly exposed to a stimulus, humans in this case, without experiencing any negative consequences, their brain gradually and automatically dials down the fear response. The internal logic is simple and ruthless. This thing keeps showing up. Nothing bad has happened yet. I am burning unnecessary energy being afraid of it, downgrading the threat level. Urban animals have gone through this process across generations. City pigeons have coexisted with humans for so long and been fed by humans so consistently that the fear response has essentially been deselected by evolution. There is no survival advantage to fleeing from creatures who throw you food every single day. But the most interesting example of habituation is not pigeons. It is crows. Crows do not just habituate to humans. They develop what can only be described as individual human intelligence files. Research has shown that crows remember specific human faces for years. If a particular person has threatened or harmed a crow, that crow will recognize that specific face, track that specific individual, and harass them consistently whenever their paths cross. They recruit other crows to join the harassment campaign. They actively teach their offspring which specific humans are dangerous and which are safe. Crows have not just lost their fear of humans. They have developed a sophisticated ongoing surveillance operation aimed specifically at us, which is either one of the coolest things in nature or genuinely unsettling depending on your personal history with crows. Here is one of the most powerful pieces of evidence for why animal fear of humans is learned rather than automatic. Islands and regions where humans have never lived, or where humans have been absent for long periods, show something extraordinary. The animals there have essentially no fear response to people at all. None. The Galapagos Islands are the most famous example. When Darwin arrived in the 1830s, he was completely baffled. Animals simply did not move away from him. He sat next to birds that showed no interest in fleeing. He physically pushed iguanas into the ocean and watched them calmly swim back and settle next to him again as if nothing unusual had happened. Marine iguanas, giant tortoises, blue-footed boobies. None of them ran. None of them cared. Because none of them had any ancestral reason to. Antarctica shows the same pattern. Penguins approach researchers directly. They inspect equipment with what appears to be genuine curiosity. Scientists doing fieldwork have repeatedly reported having to physically manage penguins, attempting to investigate their cameras, their bags, and their personal space. These penguins are not brave. They are simply operating without the fear program that every other animal has had installed by thousands of years of human predation. And in marine reserves where fishing has been banned for extended periods, something remarkable happens underwater. Fish populations begin losing their fear of human divers. Researchers have documented fish in fully protected zones actively swimming toward people, while fish in adjacent unprotected areas still flee immediately. The conclusion from all of this evidence is stark and clear. The fear of humans is not a factory default. It is installed through experience. And when the experience stops being threatening, the fear dissolves. Sometimes within just a few generations. Now here is something that nobody really wants to think about too carefully. Part of why animals are so scared of us might simply be because of how we smell. Human scent is a genuinely powerful and alien chemical signal in any natural environment. Modern humans carry a cocktail of synthetic compounds: soap, deodorant, laundry detergent, plastics, exhaust, fumes, processed food, various things we would rather not inventory too carefully that is completely foreign to natural ecosystems. But even if you removed every synthetic compound and just considered natural human body odor on its own, the signal is still distinctive and strong. Predator urine is widely used in wildlife management as a deterrent because animals read scent as a primary threat signal. When researchers placed scent strips soaked in human sweat near wildlife cameras, the reduction in animal activity was comparable to placing strips soaked in mountain lion urine. You, simply by existing and producing the odors of being alive, are roughly as alarming to local wildlife as an apex predator actively marking its territory. Some people already knew this about themselves and have fully leaned into it as a personality trait. Fair question at this point. If animals are so deeply and consistently terrified of humans, why do some of them attack us? The answer is almost always the same, regardless of species. They are not attacking because they want to. They are attacking because they feel they have no other option. The overwhelming majority of dangerous animal encounters happen in one of three situations. The animal is cornered with no viable escape route. The animal is a mother protecting young offspring. The animal has been pushed into increasingly close contact with humans by habitat destruction and is operating under chronic stress with nowhere left to go. In nearly every case, the attack is a last resort. It is defensive, not predatory. The animal is not hunting you. It is trying to survive you. Bears are the clearest illustration of this. Bears are naturally and strongly avoidant of humans. Given any reasonable opportunity to leave, a bear will leave. The problem is that as human development expands deeper into bear habitat, the space available for that avoidance keeps shrinking. Bears end up with less food, less territory, and more forced proximity to people. And when a stressed animal with nowhere left to go gets surprised at close range, it reacts the way any living thing with a functioning nervous system would react when cornered. It goes on the offensive. This is not aggression. It is desperation wearing aggression's face. Here is something that reshapes how you understand entire ecosystems. The fear animals have of us does not just affect individual animals. It rewires landscapes. When wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park in 1995, scientists expected to see deer populations decrease. What they did not expect was what happened next. The deer did not just become fewer. They changed their entire behavior. They stopped grazing in open valleys. They abandoned riverbanks. They moved differently and spent dramatically less time in exposed terrain. Because of this behavioral shift, vegetation in previously overgrazed areas began recovering. Bank erosion slowed. Rivers literally changed course. Trees grew back along waterways. Bird species returned. Fish populations rebounded because stream health improved. The entire ecosystem restructured itself, not just because wolves were killing deer, but because the fear of wolves was changing what deer did and where they went. Ecologists call this the landscape of fear, and it is one of the most powerful invisible forces shaping the natural world. Now apply that concept to humans at a planetary scale. A 2018 study published in the journal Science found that mammals across 6 continents had become significantly more nocturnal, specifically in response to human activity. Animals that were naturally active during daylight hours were shifting their entire schedules to operate at night. Not because of habitat destruction, not because of direct hunting, simply because humans were present nearby. Our mere existence was enough to rewire the daily schedules of wildlife across the entire planet. The most striking confirmation of everything we have discussed comes from first contact situations. Moments when explorers or researchers encounter animals that have had absolutely zero previous exposure to humans. The response is always the same: No fear whatsoever. Historical records from Pacific exploration describe sailors walking directly up to birds that had never seen humans and picking them up without resistance. Early accounts of the dodo describe an animal so completely without fear of humans that hunting required almost no effort at all. The birds walked toward the hunters. The sailors assumed they were simply unintelligent. They were not. They were just operating without a program that had not yet been written for them. They had never been given any reason to be afraid, so they were not. This is the window into what the world looked like before we became such an overwhelming presence in it. Not a world without danger, but a world where the danger did not walk upright, did not come from every direction simultaneously, and did not follow no pattern that any brain could learn to predict. Here is the uncomfortable place this all leads if you follow it honestly to its end. The fear that animals have of us is not an overreaction. It is not some evolutionary glitch or irrational phobia. It is a completely accurate read of the situation. Humans have caused the extinction of hundreds of species. We have hunted populations to complete collapse. We have destroyed or fundamentally altered more than half of all natural habitat on Earth. We have changed the global climate. The animals that are scared of us are, statistically and historically speaking, making the correct assessment. But here is the cruel irony buried inside all of this. Because of that fear, because animals flee and hide and restructure their lives around avoiding us, we often cannot see the full scale of what we are doing. Wildlife becomes invisible. We walk into nature and see less and less, and we interpret that absence as nature being fine. The empty forest feels peaceful rather than evacuated. The fear itself makes it easier for us to not notice what our presence is costing everything else. But here is where it ends on something real. Given the right conditions, animals can and do relearn safety around humans within surprisingly short timeframes. Mountain gorilla conservation programs in Rwanda and Uganda have documented gorilla groups that shifted from immediately fleeing rangers on site to tolerating, and in some cases actively approaching human observers over just a few years of careful, consistent, non-threatening presence. Not because the gorillas forgot the rules, but because they were given enough consistent data to update their model. These specific humans, this specific place. No negative outcomes. The threat level came down. Rewilded areas where hunting and human disturbance have been removed show animals gradually recovering their natural patterns. Daytime activity returns. Open area use returns. The hypervigilant, compressed behavior of heavily pressured populations begins to relax. The landscape of fear can be dismantled. It just requires humans to be consistently, reliably, and provably not a threat over time. We spent millions of years earning the fear that every wild animal carries when it sees us. We are the most versatile, persistent, unpredictable, and ecologically dominant predator this planet has ever produced. We hunt every continent in every climate at every hour. We do not fit any pattern that animal brains evolved to process. We have left our mark on every ecosystem on Earth simply by showing up. The squirrel frozen on your lawn is not being dramatic. It is running a survival program refined across hundreds of thousands of years of very good reasons. It genuinely cannot know that you are just trying to eat a granola bar and enjoy a quiet afternoon outside. But the same intelligence that made us so dangerous, the creativity, the adaptability, the sheer relentless capability, is also what allows us to choose something different. The animals in places where humans have been reliably safe long enough do not run. They do not hide. They live in the open, in daylight, going about their lives without dedicating enormous energy to constant vigilance. That version of the world exists. In patches. In reserves. On islands where the experiment ran long enough without interruption. The landscape of fear is not permanent. It is a mirror. It reflects exactly what we have been. And the question it leaves you with, the one worth actually sitting with, is whether what we choose to be next will be worth reflecting too.